as a housing focused channel, investment channel, first time home buyers, I think it would be remiss if we didn't ask Mr. Lance Lambert from Fortune to talk about the most updated forecasts from housing experts. Just so I can get it out early so I don't interrupt him later, my prediction hasn't changed from January 1st, and that is 2023 will be plus or minus 1%. In fact, I think we will be flat for years to come, given that we had such high appreciation for 2 or 3 years. The only way to make that up is to have flat years. But Lance, you talked to some amazing experts across the country. I know some of them have changed their models since the early part of the year. What is everybody saying? Who's the bull? Who's the bear?
Yeah, and so one of the reasons that I shared forecast last year is I kind of view them as like their own type of economic like data, right? So I don't really care about like the actual calls as much, like the numbers. I care about the shifts. And what happened starting in February 2022 is that all the models kept revising down. So Zillow was plus 22%, then they're like plus 18%. Then they thought between April 2022 and April 2023, we'd be like 17.8. And it just kept getting cut all through the year. And now by like April of last year, you had Moody's go to 0. And then as the summer came, they were like -5. And then what started to happen, and not -5 for this year, but a peak to trough number. And then what happened once mortgage rates got closer to 7 and the data started to roll in showing that prices had started to drop in a lot of parts of the country is people started to get really bearish.
Yes, they did. Yes,
it went
they
over to
did.
10, 15% peak to troughs, then 20% peak to troughs. Not everybody, but we got 7 calls that were peak to troughs over 7% for single family homes. And keep in mind, peak to trough with seasonal adjustment, we were down 20%, 26% nationally for the crash. That's crazy inventory, subprime crisis, everything. It's the biggest shit brew you could get, and it only took them down 26%. Now 27 without seasonal adjustment, but that's where we were. And from February 2022 to December 2022, it was all revised down, pretty much across.
I remember. Yep.
First week of January, we got one up. Second week of January, we got like another one. And that's been the case since then, is we've just been getting them revised upward. So to me, and I don't have a great way of like aggregating this for like a beautiful chart. If everybody just gave me like a 12-month number for the case Shiller, what they thought it would be in 12 months, I could create like a 538 page where we could just watch this and see its movement. And I think if we had it, what it would show is there was a big sentiment change in the models. And remember, the models aren't like, Zandy or somebody being like, oh, I think it's going to go down this because I see this. They're plugging this in with all their other economic data. And, Moody's Analytics, I think they have, 100 researchers over there. And so all their view of the global economy, and as those data points come in, it changes the models. Sure. So that's why I see it as kind of like its own economic data, is like how these models move. And we saw that shift in January. And Zillow, coming into the year, they had went from thinking we would be up 18% year over year in the next 12 months to down 1.1%. That's how dramatic the shift in the model was. Now, I'll go through the ones that have updated in the past 2 months. Actually, I need to get the Zillow number because I don't have it updated in here. Because after I published the story, they released their new model.
Yeah, which was up. Well, I'll let you share.
Okay. So here we go. I'll go from bullish to bearish. Okay. Number 1, most bullish, Zillow. They think between April 2023 and April 2024, U.S. home values as measured by their index go up 4.8%. That's a little above the historical average for a year. So
4.8, wow.
To go from an environment where people are making almost crash calls to like somebody making a call for an above average year. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And next up, CoreLogic. They think 4.6% between March 2023, March 2024.
Wow.
CoreLogic has never went negative on a year-over-year call this time I've been watching. So they've stayed up. Next up, Bank of America, 0% this year is their call. Areas of concern that Bank of America says: Phoenix, Austin, Vegas, significant supply coming online with USPS data showing some outward migration. My personal view, and I don't want to give too many of my personal views because then it takes away from my reporting, but where I kind of see the data, Austin, the most risky of those three.
Oh, I totally agree. 100%.
And then Phoenix and Vegas, or, their inventories are still moving down. So
they're going down. It's wild.
They're firming up. Austin is not. Austin bottomed in January. So we're now kind of seeing that, already the market's bifurcated across the country. Already the market is bifurcated within markets by price tiers. But now we're kind of seeing these groups even pull apart from each other even more. And, one of the things I think that not many people are talking about, and you brought up last year, is the impact that stocks have on the housing market.
Exactly. Yes.
This year, so we have seen mortgage rates come down a bit, but we've also seen a good improvement in stocks, and expecting some of these tech stocks that I think really do matter for like markets like Seattle. So that just popped in my head. Stocks do matter, especially when they.
I mean, think about Meta, which is, I don't know, 5 miles from where I live. It was a $98 stock. Now it's like $240. Yeah, that matters.
Exactly. Especially, it matters a lot because the markets that got hit the most last year, the hardest, are the markets where stocks had the most impact. And so stocks going down so fast last year while rates almost tripled. Yeah, that's what last year
matters.
Mortgage Bankers Association. Actually, I got a new one that's not on here. AEI, they think 0% this year. And they were one that went briefly to, and I'm surprised they did it because they were one that wasn't as bearish. And then right at the end of last year, they went 15% peak to trough. And then
bearish. Wow.
Yes. But then a few weeks later, they moved it. They went down and then they moved it all within a few weeks. I didn't report it out well on Twitter, but that's essentially what happened. So they're 0% this year, and they think that next year is +3. Now, keep in mind, AEI, their home price index is rising this year. So to get to 0% this year, it means that we go up in the spring and we give back in the fall. But we don't it's not like last fall. But they have us giving up what we make in the spring and then getting back into the normal appreciation cycle or close to it next year. Mortgage Bankers Association, and they forecast for the FHFA. They have us going down 0.6% in 2023, down 1.4 in 2024, and then in 25 +2.1.
Okay.
It's interesting that they have 24 down more than 23. One of the models that came out early, and I think if everything stays how it's starting to look now, maybe this will be the one we're like, oh, this model was actually pretty good. Goldman Sachs, their model had countries like Canada and a lot of these developed countries taking big hits really early and then pulling back up. Like big hits initially and then pulling. And that's the opposite of how home prices have historically went down, is that event occurs, inventory builds, and then you kind of drop. There's this like shock, drop, and then kind of bounced off of it. Like affordability at its peak pressurized was when prices were kind of rolling and then it stopped. And, Canada's heating back up this year.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, it's kind of like, I would compare Canada because the affordability is so constrained. It's more like California, Seattle.
That's what I've seen in my research too. It's like California, not like the US. It's affordability is really bad in Canada.
Yeah. And that's the only reason that it could drop. They have a very
that in their lending market, their arms.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But the fact that prices now this spring are moving back up, given the refinances, is
It's crazy.
incredible. They just don't have supply. There's not the supply. And after them, we have Fannie Mae.
Mhm.
They think prices dropped 1.2 this year and 2.2 next year. That's actually a significant revision. A month earlier, they thought down 4.2 for 23. Now they're down 1.2. So pretty big pull.
Yeah, coming back. Okay.
Morgan Stanley, last year they said prices fall 4% this year. They put out a new note in April that said in November, the housing team published a home price forecast calling for a decline of 4% this year. On balance, the incoming data have roughly tracked with that forecast, is what they said.
All right.
And they forecast for Shiller. Moody's expects prices down 4.4% this year, and their peak to trough is 8.6. Now, one thing about Moody's is they forecast for the Moody's Analytics Repeat Sales Index.
Okay.
And the interesting thing about the Moody's Repeat Sales Index is last fall, it didn't really show many declines. And actually, I don't know if you remember, but there was a few times that Mark tweeted out in like October and November, prices went up that month.
I remember, yeah.
In January, they went a full percent down. And then in February, they went down more. And then Mark just tweeted out recently that March was down. So I don't know, but their total down is very similar to Shiller now and Black Knight.
And where do we sit Case Shiller peak to trough? Is it like 2.8 seasonally adjusted, something like that?
So
2.5?
Seasonally adjusted at the bottom, if the bottom has occurred, it was 3. Without adjustment, 5.1.
Okay.
Now it's like 2.8 off the peak and seasonally adjusted, and then off the peak like 4.7 without, or sorry, 2.8 down, seasonally adjusted now, and 4.7 without adjustment. But we're going to see those both pull down. I expect the next couple, because if you look at the other indices, they're reporting. And so the reason I bring this up is Moody's is actually down almost like 1.9 this year. So there's a very good chance that they probably are just down this year because there's like a carryover. Like they didn't get the drop last year and it kind of carried over this year.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Which is why, I like the Case Shiller, because I kind of feel like, I don't know, it's been consistent in how, like I can kind of gauge where it's going to be based on looking at all the other indices that report before it. Yeah. That's how I've kind of felt with it.
Yeah, the good thing about all of this is I feel really good about my January call pointing at most people being too negative. To your point, right? Everybody just kind of reverted when the data came in cold for November, December. Since I'm in the market every day, I'm like, well, guys, did you realize January 15th, everything changed and like people are buying stuff again? So, being in the know, in the trenches daily, I felt good about saying, hey, you guys are too negative, and I still feel good about my plus or minus 1%. So
I do think things that matter this year, I think that where rates kind of came to and came, especially as the spring market got going. And, if they had people advising them that were smart and told them, when they got in the low 6s, hey, let's go and lock this in.
Let's go. Yeah.
Then, I think that was a nice boost to the market. But I think there's also just the truth that there's a lot of people who couldn't buy during the pandemic, and they lost out on all these bidding wars, and they were on the sidelines and they couldn't get in. And then this has kind of been even though there's a competition in the market right now, it's still nothing like it was before. And so these people, this is finally like their chance to kind of get in where they're competing against less, although the affordability, is very strained.
It's not great.
Like F it. I've spent so much on rent. They probably watched the rent go up, 30% over the past years, maybe more. And so there's kind of like this pent up demand, and there's still like the strong demographics, and there's just
Well,
not.
and let's not forget also, we're starting to lap last year, right? For a long time, people like a year ago, rates were 3%.
Yeah.
I think when you do the year-on-year comparison now, they're like 4.6. So there's still, it's still a big gap, but very soon, as soon as late June, we're going to be lower, right? July is when rates broke 7% last
Well,
year. So
so
we're on
last
the
year,
cusp of that.
June is when we hit 6.2, which was the summer peak.
Mm-hmm.
And then August, we went 4.99, not 5.99,
Okay.
4.99.
4.99. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. And that's when people started to be like, oh, we're seeing a little more demand
Whoa,
coming back in the
let's
market.
go.
And then all of a sudden, boom, we went on a bull rush from August to October to 7.37. So
Yeah.
we
So
won't
maybe, okay. Yeah.
be down year over year for mortgage rates, but essentially, like my chart for mortgage rate shock, which is just year over year change
Sure.
and mortgage rates, the shock has went way down. Like
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
out of the shock. Yeah. Yeah. And exactly. So yeah, next month it will be the first time, or last month will be a year since we tested 6, which when we hit 6.2 last June, oh, it was a panic. People were
Oh no, I
freaking.
remember my agents were telling me nobody's showing open houses and all of that. So again, we're almost lapping that.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be
Yeah.
interesting.
So it's interesting to see how resilient the market has been given how much mortgage rates went up. Going 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's something. And then last couple here, Goldman Sachs, they put out like 3 different forecasts, so they're always all over the place. But the last
One of them's gonna be right.
the last one, they had us down 6 this year. But then you'll look at another model, like their international model, and they had the US peak to trough 5. So one model has us down 6 this year, and then the whole cycle is 5. Which to be a peak to trough 5, that means you're probably like doing like 1.5 down this year.
Right.
Actually, we've kind of on an unadjusted, we already hit the 5, but to get to a seasonally, it would be like a 1.5. And so that one's a little odd to me. KPMG, they last did this in March, but 8 Shiller this year, Shiller's most down ever was 11.9 in 08. So I don't really see how that's possible this year, given that we have a spring appreciation. So year to date, Shiller is essentially flat this year because they were up in January, down in February. So they're like minus 0.0000 point something. But they are going to be up year to date when we get this March reading. And then they'll go up a little more year to date when we get the April reading. So for them to fall 8%, that means your last like 7 readings in Shiller have to be like things would like
the math doesn't work.
Here's the only way you can get there. We default. That's literally the only way. And the interesting thing about the default is it's the one scenario where you can break unemployment and keep rates high.
Agreed.
It's like that. Like that's the only way you get there. So I'm kind of surprised they haven't pulled back on it. But I also respect when these firms are like, this is what the forecast model shows, right?
Me too.
So they still put it out. So that's where we are right now. Still more of the model showing down. And it does look like there's a chance that we could be up a little this year based on what we're kind of seeing with the spring appreciation. But it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. And another thing is models are not destiny, right? The reality of how things play out, like we should take these things with a grain of salt. But it is the first time, in the past 10 years where the models have went negative, which was last year.
Yeah. But this has been a lot of fun. I love the fact that you take all of this. You talk to the folks in the industry. I appreciate following you. You make me a better informed person. How can people follow you on Twitter? Because you are a must follow.
Yeah. At News Lambert, they can find me, or Google Lance Lambert Fortune to read my articles.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you for coming back each week. I appreciate you.